My sister banned me from her wedding, said I'd ruin her perfect day, so I smiled and made sure the priest showed up at a church she'd spent years trying to forget. I didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't even ask why. I just stood there, holding the phone, listening to her tell me like it was nothing that my presence would throw off the aesthetic. I had paid for her photographer, picked her dress up from tailoring, held her when she cried after her first engagement collapsed, and now I wasn't even welcome. That's when I knew if I wasn't allowed to witness her walk down the aisle, I'd make sure she didn't make it to the altar at all. Vanessa has always been radiant, the kind of girl people looked at twice. Growing up, relatives would say, "She's the pretty one, Natalie's the smart one." They thought it was a compliment. I learned how to smile through it. We were close when we were kids. We shared a bunk bed, a birthday month, even the same Barbie dream house. But when we hit high school, she drifted. It wasn't dramatic, just little things. She stopped telling me secrets, started treating me like the tag-along sister. I let it go. That's what younger sisters do, right? When our parents split, she stayed with Mom. I went with Dad. We were 15 and 13, and it felt like a clean break down the middle. Mom called her my little lady. Dad called me his quiet one. Neither of them noticed how lonely we both got after that. I used to write her letters during college. She never replied. When I asked her about it later, she laughed and said, "Oh, I thought they were cute." I just didn't know what to say back. Still, when she got fired from her first job, she crashed at my apartment for 3 months, rent-free. I gave her my bed and slept on the couch. When she got back on her feet, she barely said thank you, just packed her bags and left a half-eaten yogurt in the fridge. When she met Colin, her fiancé now, I was the first person she called. I helped her choose a ring when he gave her the option. She couldn't decide between vintage gold or silver with diamonds. We spent an entire Saturday at the jewelry store. I didn't mind. I thought maybe finally we were back to being sisters. So when she asked for help planning the wedding, I said yes, without hesitation. She didn't have a planner, and I had experience from helping organize fundraisers at work. I made spreadsheets, vendor lists, backup options for venues. When their original photographer bailed, I drove 4 hours to meet a new one and put down the deposit myself, $5,000. Out of my own savings. She said she'd pay me back after the honeymoon. I said, "Take your time." Then things started shifting. She made a group chat with her bridesmaids and left me out. I found out the bachelorette party had already happened through photos on Instagram. When I asked, she said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd want to come. You're not really into that stuff." I laughed. Said, "You're probably right." But that laugh felt like glass in my throat. A few days later, Mom called. She mentioned the wedding rehearsal. I paused and said, "Wait, rehearsal?" When she hesitated, "Vanessa said you were busy that weekend." I wasn't. Still, I smiled through the call, hung up, and stared at the wall for a long time. Then came the final blow, a glossy, gold-trimmed wedding invitation, addressed to my parents, my cousins, even Ben, our brother who lives in another state. But nothing for me. I texted her, "Hey, did mine get lost in the mail?" She replied 4 hours later, "Hey Nat, we decided it might be better if you didn't come. Colin's family's pretty formal and there's been some tension. I don't want anything awkward on the day." I read it 3 times. No, sorry. No, I wish it were different. Just logistics. Like I was a problem she needed to solve. I stared at the message, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like her sister. I felt like a burden she'd finally decided to unload. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. I just sat there holding my phone, watching the little dots disappear. She didn't follow up. No call, no apology. Just silence, as if she'd crossed something off a list and moved on. I didn't cry. Tears would have been easier. Instead, I walked into my kitchen, made myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window. Outside, the world kept moving. Kids laughed down the street. Someone's wind chimes danced in the breeze. But inside me, it was still empty. I thought about that $5,000, about the weekends I gave up helping her sort through flower arrangements, table placements, fabric swatches, about how I stood in the rain holding her wedding binder while she snapped at a delivery man for being late. I wasn't her planner. I wasn't her maid of honor. I was just there. And now I wasn't even that. I looked through my texts, scrolled back to the first voice memo she sent when she got engaged. I can't believe it, Nat. He actually did it. I need you, I don't even know where to start. I had dropped everything. Every time. But now she'd decided my presence might cause tension in her fairy tale. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying every birthday I helped plan, every emergency dress fitting, every late-night call she made to cry about our mom. All the times I stayed quiet when she threw jabs, all the times I forgave before she asked. And now I'd been erased, with one text. The next morning I got a call from Ben. "Did you get an invite?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "No," I said. He sighed. "She said it's a capacity issue. Said Colin's family had a lot of people, and she didn't want to make it awkward." "Did she say it like that?" I asked. "No," he admitted. "She said you'd probably make a scene." I blinked. Make a scene? I'd never raised my voice at a family event. Never drank too much. Never worn white to anyone's wedding. But sure blame the quiet sister. The invisible one. I hung up soon after. I didn't trust my voice not to crack. By lunch, our cousin Michelle had posted a story captioned, "Bridal brunch success, Hammered V party." There was Vanessa glowing, surrounded by satin-robed bridesmaids laughing, sipping champagne. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. I watched it twice, then closed the app and deleted Instagram altogether. That evening, I got a voicemail from Mom. She sounded unsure, hesitant. "Hey, honey, I know things are tense, but maybe just let this go. It's her big day. Don't hold it against her forever. She's your sister." I stared at the phone. Let this go. I had let so many things go. Let her interrupt me mid-sentence. Let her take credit for things I planned. Let her call me too sensitive when I asked for respect. Let her leave me out of milestone after milestone and still show up when she needed something. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the porch, and for the first time I realized something terrifying and liberating. I had built an entire identity around being the bigger person. And maybe that's why she thought I'd stay quiet this time too. The morning after the bridal brunch, I woke up with an odd calm, the kind that settles in after a long storm. I didn't feel angry anymore, just done. I got dressed, grabbed my tote, and drove downtown, not to work, not to the gym, but to St. Jude's Church, the one near the lake. It's quiet there. Old, warm-colored stone walls and vines that wrap around the steeple like time itself is clinging on. But I wasn't there for nostalgia. I was there for someone. Father Mark, the current officiant at St. Jude's, and also, once upon a time, Vanessa's college boyfriend. They dated for nearly 2 years. She was his everything until she wasn't. She ghosted him after graduation. No explanation, no closure. Just vanished into a new relationship with someone more ambitious, in her words. What she didn't know, or maybe never cared to find out, was that after their breakup, he left law school, joined seminary, and came back to this town to start again. I only knew because he and I crossed paths again at a friend's memorial years later. We kept in touch occasionally, mostly holiday messages and book recommendations. Last week, before all this wedding mess exploded, he told me St. Jude's had opened up for outside ceremonies. I remembered that. And I remembered Vanessa had been scrambling for a backup church after her original cathedral suddenly pulled out due to a double booking. She was thrilled when St. Jude's confirmed. What she didn't realize, what no one on her side realized, was who the assigned priest was. So that morning I walked into the office beside the chapel. Mark looked up surprised but smiling. "Natalie." I nodded, sat down across from him. He asked what was wrong. I told him everything. About the exclusion, the $5,000, the group chat, the brunch, the text. He listened. Really listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't try to downplay it. When I finished, I said softly, "I'm not here to sabotage anyone. I just think you should know who you're about to stand in front of this weekend." He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I never got an apology. I guess now I know why." I shrugged. "You don't have to do anything, but I'm done pretending she didn't hurt people and walk away like nothing happened." He looked down at his hands, then back up at me. There's a part in every vow, he said, where I ask, does anyone have just cause why these two should not be joined in marriage? I smiled. You don't need to ask that. You just need to stand there." He nodded once. "No drama, just presence." "Exactly," I said. I left it at that. 2 days later, I got word through Ben that the rehearsal had been abruptly moved to another location. Apparently, the couple had decided St. Jude's didn't match the vibe. No explanation given. Ben was confused. So was Mom. So was Vanessa. What they didn't know, what no one would know, was that when Vanessa walked into that church for the rehearsal, she locked eyes with someone she thought was long gone from her past. Mark had greeted her calmly. No bitterness, no accusation. Just, "It's good to see you again, Vanessa. I'll be your officiant this Saturday." She froze, turned pale, said nothing for a full beat, then quietly excused herself to take a call. By that evening, the venue was canceled. No backup church confirmed. Vendors confused. Guests left without updates. Mom called me, of course. Left a message Vanessa's had some kind of breakdown. Everything's falling apart. Please call her. I didn't. That night, I lit a candle, opened my window, and let the breeze come through. I didn't feel triumphant, didn't feel vindicated. I just felt light. For the first time in my life, I had drawn a line. Not to punish, not to seek revenge, just to say enough. And it turns out when you stop giving people the power to walk all over you, they trip over themselves instead. The wedding never happened, not the way she planned. They eventually held a backyard ceremony at Colin's aunt's house. No aisle, no violin quartet, no flower arch flown in from Napa. Just folding chairs, plastic tablecloths, and a slightly confused justice of the peace who mispronounced Colin's name twice. I wasn't invited. This time I didn't need to be. Ben sent me a few photos afterward. Vanessa's smile looked thinner. Colin's suit didn't fit quite right. And the guests? Mostly his side of the family. I didn't reply to Ben's message. Not because I was angry, just done. A week later, Vanessa sent an email. The subject line, no title, just like her wedding invite list. It was long, winding, half apology, half explanation. She said she had been under pressure, said she didn't know how to include me without complicating things, said she never meant to hurt me, but nowhere in the email did she say I'm sorry. And that's how I knew she wasn't. She ended it with, "If you ever want to talk, you know where to find me." I closed the laptop, didn't delete it. Didn't respond either. There was no anger left, just space. Space I didn't need to fill anymore. In the weeks that followed, I did something I hadn't done in years. I focused on myself. I signed up for a Saturday painting class at the community center. I repotted all the plants on my balcony. I started sleeping through the night, no anxious dreams, no waking up with a tight chest. David, my old manager, called one afternoon, said he missed our coffee chats. We met up at the cafe near the office. He asked gently, "How are you really?" I told him the truth. "I feel unburdened." He smiled. "That's rare," he said. "Most people just feel bitter." I shook my head. Bitterness takes too much energy. I've spent enough of my life giving energy to people who didn't know how to hold it. That night, I lit a candle, made some tea, and curled up with a book. No phone within reach. No waiting for messages that never came. Just me. Alive. Enough. Sometimes I'd catch myself wondering what Vanessa was thinking, if she missed me, if she regretted it. But those thoughts passed quickly like clouds, because the truth is, I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just stopped volunteering to be the extra in a story I never got to co-write. Mom called a few times, left voicemails with quiet sighs and hesitant questions. I listened to some of them. Not all. One ended with, "You're still her sister," but I don't think she understood I wasn't walking away from being a sister. I was walking away from being invisible. A few Sundays ago, Maya, one of Vanessa's bridesmaids, bumped into me at the bookstore. She looked sheepish, said I didn't know everything. "I'm sorry." I just nodded. She added, "You seem different. Lighter." "I am," I said, and I meant it. Because here's the thing, no one tells you. Letting go isn't loud. It's not a dramatic door slam or a fiery monologue. Sometimes it's just choosing silence over explanation, stillness over chasing, peace over proximity. I didn't ruin Vanessa's wedding. I didn't expose her, didn't confront her. I let her face herself in a room she thought she controlled. And then I left. Now I wake up to sunlight, to quiet, to mornings that don't begin with "what does she need from me today?" I go to work, have dinner with friends, take long walks without checking my phone. For the first time in years, I'm living a life where my presence isn't conditional. And honestly, that's the happiest I've ever been. I used to think love meant always showing up, even when you weren't invited, even when it hurt. But now I know. Sometimes the strongest kind of love is the one you give to yourself, the one that says, you don't have to keep proving your worth to people who keep erasing it. So here's my question for you. Have you ever stayed in someone's life just to avoid being called selfish? Have you ever bent yourself into silence just to keep the peace? If so, what would it look like to choose peace for you instead? Tell me in the comments, because someone out there might need to hear your story to find the courage to walk away from theirs.